First thing in the game of football, you need your feet up and under you, don't you, to be mobile, balanced, leveraged, powerful, all those things. Coming into camp, you had a really, really wide stance. And even though that might, in theory, give you space between the legs, it was actually not working for you because you got so wide that the knees were still collapsing inward. Your feet are real wide, but the clearance between the knees was not any better than if we adjust you a little bit and get those feet up and under you. Being too wide, it can be hard to sit in the stance. It can create tension in the hip flexors. It'll tighten you up and slow you down. It can leave you immobile after the snap. It can leave you with locked knees where you can get injured. And it's very hard, as wide as your feet are, to capture the lower body motion energy, channel it back in the hips towards your target, meaning that we don't capture that drive and use it to accelerate the football. Okay? So what I wanted to suggest to you is that we get your feet up and under you. A typical football stance a little wider than the shoulders. A snapping stance, especially with a guy with big legs and big shoulders like you, can be 4, 6, 8 inches wider than your average stance. You might even want to go a little more in your case, but try these things. Try pointing the toes slightly outward. When you sit into the stance, push the knees out over the toes. It's going to give you maximum clearance between the knees without getting your feet out too wide. And it's going to be a much more stable base from which you can drive off the balls of your feet into the hips and towards your target. Okay? Step up here, face the camera and set up. Let's look at stance width. It is important to see the knees slightly wider than the shoulders. That's a very important thing. So we got plenty of operating room between the legs. But if you ever have tension in the hip flexors, it's problematic. Okay, go ahead and set up. Let's see what it's looking like. Is that comfortable? That looks good. The load bearing should be here on the quads, never tied up in the hip flexors. Does it feel good? Okay, go ahead and stand up, step back where you were. The other things we had coming in is you really like to have that ball way out in front of you, overextended, okay? It creates a lot of tension and tightness, and it also tends to pull too much weight forward in your stance. To counterbalance that, you're hunkering your rear back and you're ending up sitting flat-footed or even a little bit on your heels, with the net effect that you're overstretched on the field for a guy who's what, 6'2", 6'1"? Okay, you're setting up like you're 6'4" or 5, so you're overstretched. We need to take your whole head-to-tail platform, raise it a little higher off the ground, shorten you down, and then get your knees right over your toes for optimal balance, okay? Now, when we raise you up, we move you vertically further from the ball. And what that means is the ball doesn't have to be so far downfield to still maintain a good, well-extended arm for a complete and powerful throw, okay? Being overstretched like that and kind of sitting flat-footed or on your heels, your leg drive can really only be straight vertical. It's like doing a hack squat on your heels or whatever. You know, you can only drive straight up. We need that leg drive to be back into the hips at about a 15 to 20 degree angle so we can capture that energy and converge it with what's coming down the spine. Make an arrow point where the energies combine and go straight towards your target. Make sense? Okay. You're finishing on your heels because you're finishing lock-kneed and very stiff-kneed with a high center of gravity and raising up. Let's also get in the habit of finishing and breaking down. The breakdown position gives you options after the snap to cover, block, or whatever it is you have to do. Okay, the last thing we had was kind of extreme ball tilt. You kind of had the ball up on the nose. Is that right? Okay, I think once we get you adjusted, you might be able to reduce that a bit, be able to come through just more efficiently and powerfully with the football. Let's go ahead and three-step you the first time. You ready? Okay, I'm going to pull you forward. Get your knee bent to 90 or less. That's too far forward, huh? Straighten the back and extend the arms. Then I'm going to raise you up, maximizing operating room under the torso. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to push you back into the hips towards your target, not down to the ground, but towards your target, till the heels are on the ground, knees are on toes. And I think you got a little too wide that time. Let's stand up, back away, and let's get your feet right to start. Okay. Go ahead. You'll be a much better athlete with your feet up and under you than you will be otherwise. Okay? You ready? Pull you forward, raise you up, push you back and in. I'm just trying to get you exactly right. Does that feel comfortable? Okay. You do like to be really stretched, and it works as long as we don't see that shift in weight. You see that right there? Lift the ball up, make sure you're balanced. Not too stiff or tense here or here. Set it down, give it a good hard throw. That's awesome. Except for that habit of finishing like this, okay? We need the weight distribution in front of and in back of the center of gravity, which is your belly button, to stay distributed properly throughout the motion. So in order to do that, that acceleration has to be back up into the hips. Okay, let's try that one more time, and I'm going to give you a little shoulder shove to try to channel that energy back towards your hips. Keep you balanced, okay?
Is that good?
Does it feel good? Okay, after tomorrow I won't see you for at least a year probably, so there you go, okay. All right, so instead of adjusting you, what we did, you were overstretched and flat-footed. We raised you up a little bit to shorten you down, then we settled you back till we got the knees right over the toes, ideally, okay? Does that feel good? Okay, I'm going to give you a shoulder shove, channel that energy. Go ahead. Okay? That habit of finishing like this is going to kill you at the college level, Pat. So, I'm sorry, Connor. Step out of camera right there. So let's try to drive off the balls of the feet, and then let's finish by breaking down, okay? Let's do that one more time. When we get you on the hill tomorrow, snapping on the hill, that'll help cure that in a hurry, okay? Okay, so we raised you up here, settled you down, got the knees over toes. We're not quite getting knees over toes, but you know, you're built a little different. It's not going to look textbook ideal, but as long as it's comfortable and you feel like you got room between the knees, I'm okay with it. How'd that feel? Okay, break it down for me. Break it down one more time. See if I can see what's happening. See the difference? Where'd the ball go, Stuart? Okay, all right. We'll keep working on it. It was a tiny bit high, but you know what? We need to practice that. I'm not saying cut short your follow through, always finish it, but you've got to be stable and balanced from start to finish to maximize the ability to be leveraged and accurate at the same time. To be powerful and accurate is the way to say it. Okay, let's do one more, and then we'll send you on your merry way. Are you a happy camper?
I'm a happy camper.
Yeah, that's going to be on YouTube, so I hope you are. If you want it to be private, we can make it private. Now just be sure you like that ball slightly further out. That's fine as long as it's not pulling weight forward, as long as it's not creating locked out joints or tension you got to fight through and overcome, because that'll slow you down. Okay? Except for the habit of being locked kneed at the finish. We'll work on it the next 2 days. By the time we get to final filming tomorrow, I think we'll see some good progress. Okay? You got any questions?
No.
All right. So we narrowed you down. We shortened you down on the front because you're a little hyper overextended. Okay? When you're that overextended, the first part of your throw is very slow and inefficient. You're having to pull the ball to a position from which you can accelerate it. Probably costs you 5/800ths of a second on your snap, okay? You're looking pretty ideal now. You like to be a little further out than the average bear. As long as you're not overstretched or off balance, that's fine with me. Let's go. All right. Looking pretty solid. You feel balanced on the balls of your feet? Not too far. Okay. Give it a good, hard, aggressive throw. Excellent, Mr. Connor Fry. Let's go. Don't get in that habit of finishing on the heels. Remember, finish through, come to a breakdown or something so you'll be well balanced and ready for what comes after, okay? Excellent. Excellent job, Connor.